The human and the lion, both are me. So you could say I'm a lion man, using a tiger avatar for the time being. This video is the story of my walk-in Irma soul and my understanding of the different aspects that make up my awareness experience on Earth. I will preface the story with a recognition that I am awareness. We are all awareness. The narrowing of that view into specificity is the egoic construct. But it is from these egoic constructs that we experience our unique character. There are four aspects of myself that I now recognize playing a part in this incarnation. My human body, subconscious, autonomous, or innate. My human soul consciousness that I've primarily experienced as throughout this life. My Irma lion soul walk-in aspect who has been integrating the past few years, and my oversoul, which encompasses my human and lion soul as well as many others incarnated elsewhere. My human body subconscious is named Michael and is fundamental to this incarnation. This is actually the last of these four aspects that I became familiar with just a couple months ago. This is the background operation that takes care of all the human-animal functions of the body. The subconscious also carries with it its own set of emotions and holds the most trauma from the current incarnation. When trauma is experienced, the soul may choose to leave for a time, but the body is left holding the bag. A common example that many are familiar with is when someone is blackout drunk. The body has been poisoned to a point that the soul has to vacate, leaving the body's subconscious in charge. Then upon waking, the soul does not have direct access to those memories, for it did not experience them. My human soul consciousness is the me that has been the decision maker through most of this life and has been the primary state of my awareness in this incarnation. I do not know the history of this aspect of myself other than a high likelihood involvement in Atlantis. My Irma lion soul has been the biggest change to my life these past few years. Originally recognized as higher self, I now understand this aspect as a walk-in or step-down integration of another soul within my oversoul. He has his own soul history, including a series of incarnations with the Irma felines. We agreed on the name Seiichi, originally to represent him, but as we are merging in this life, the name Seiichi Lionheart was adopted to represent our combined aspect. It is a unique name meaning the one Lionheart, symbolizing our unique merger and our connectedness with extended soul family. Picture a Venn diagram with a circle representing each soul and the overlap being the integration or common ground. Sometimes these circles drift closer or further apart, but in general are getting continuously closer together. Given that we now share the name, Seiichi, or Zei for short, we needed a couple names to differentiate our aspects. The movie The Lion King had a strong early childhood impact and actually has a great metaphorical similarity to our story, so the names Simba and Mufasa are used for my human and lion self respectively. My oversoul is known to me by the name Rayon, the white lion from Zion he likes to present as, but he is more of an energy conglomerate that can present as many different things, for he has overseen many different experiences. This is the highest aspect of myself and certainly the biggest leap in consciousness when I connect with him. When I say he, souls and oversouls are not male or female, but they do have a preference. He is very busy with managing something like 20 other concurrent lifetimes, but is available as needed. Of these, I'm aware of an Andromedan aspect and my only other current Earth incarnation, which is that of a house cat living in Norway. If I were to describe these aspects of myself on the oversimplified density scale, The subconscious would be 2D to 3D, my human soul 3D to 4D, my Irma soul as 5D, and the oversoul is 9D to 12D, being above the octave of the range of experience of individual souls. These densities are simply an approximation of current range of vibrational awareness. I think of it as a ladder that we climb up and down as we choose, as we wish to experience. We have a wide range of vibrational frequency we can experience, but higher frequencies here require much energy and are limited by Earth's time construct. When I connect with my oversoul, I am presented with a very high level perspective, but it is the most difficult to understand or share from our earthly perspective, and unsurprisingly would sound quite opposite to anything grounded or down to earth. For example, being completely unbothered with life and death, or even seeing cataclysmic events as being just as well and a welcome change in experience for all. Now I will move on to the unfolding of events that has led me here. My story involves psychedelic plant medicines. I do not recommend plant medicines to anyone unless they are in need of a strong intervention. These experiences are transformative and should only be used if you need your life to be transformed. If you are happy with the path that you are on, total sobriety is the most optimal and sustainable route. My first psychedelic experience was in early 2019. It was a large ayahuasca ceremony overnight on a beach of Acapulco, Mexico. My mom and I were staying there for the Acapulco conference, and taking part in the ceremony was her idea. As it happened, I ended up having a much better experience than she did. Older humans tend to have a greater accumulation of stuck energy, so these kind of interventions can be especially difficult. It was facilitated by Ecuadorian shamans and was a hugely powerful awakening. I had been building my spiritual awareness for a couple years prior, and it was like having all of my enigmatic beliefs confirmed to me in one night, as well as experiencing a completely different vibrational awareness. It went from seeing clouds in the night sky transform to rows of flame letters, to seeing what one would call the empty night sky as a rainbow pixelated Penrose tile of pure Akashic record information. The whole several hours long time being surrounded with the most powerful envelopment of love and joy that I've ever felt. This was also when I first came out to my mom as being bisexual. As I was coming down from the experience and reconnecting with the earth, I was presented with memories of being a lion cub running around, playing in Africa. I then felt the trauma of Gaia, of the range of experience taking place on earth, but also the beauty and perfection of having that collective range of experience that humans and other life forms get to experience here. The chaos and turmoil allowing for that greater collective range of experience. The first hint I had as a human about my Irma soul was one night in November 2020. I had a larger dose of mushrooms and found myself rolling around saying, "I'm a cat." And it's really funny that I've been pretending to be human because I'm really a cat. At that time, I didn't take this too seriously, nor did the few friends that I randomly called up that night. But in hindsight, I think I was experiencing the lion in a state of delirium. My first official contact and aware embodiment of the lion was a year and a half later, after I had moved to New Mexico. This contact and those for the following 6 months were all with the aid of mushrooms. At the time, it was what helped to bridge the gap between our vibrations. Since then, my human vibration has ascended and the lion's vibration has descended to where we are at least partially overlapping all the time. After I moved to Aztec, New Mexico, I was much more isolated and had a lot more time to myself for introspection. May 16th, 2022 was the super flower blood moon. I had listened to a guided Meet Your Higher Self meditation and then went outside to lay on a blanket under the stars. The thought came up, "Do you want to poke the bear?" To which I replied, "Yes, I want to poke the bear." Then there was a stirring as the lion began to awake. This was our first time of being officially introduced. As the human, I immediately recognized this soul as my higher self, and it felt like remembering what I was supposed to be like or feel like in my more natural, less programmed state. I remember after some time of getting acquainted, standing up and walking over towards my mom who was there. Under the full blood moon with the blanket around me as a cape, I came out to my mom as being a cat and not entirely human, making it my second coming out to my mom under the influence of psychedelics story. I had several more experiences that summer. Each time I would make contact about an hour after having the mushrooms, and we would talk for about 4 hours before saying our goodbyes and my vibration coming back down to earth. The lion would use the body's physical voice and my human self presenting as the thoughts in the background, like how many channelers operate. The lion was very bright and humorous and felt like my true long-lost personality or character. Truly it was conversations between best friends and literal soulmates. Sometimes we would talk about more emotional subjects, helping to release the human trauma I had experienced. But there isn't much the lion would disclose about his life. I thought we may have been in an immersion program where my lion body was in a pod with consciousness being beamed to Earth. It would be another 2 years before I would discover the truth. The last contact that year was around October 15th, and it was a very entertaining conversation of us joking around about human politics and the like. We were even making Halloween plans together, but towards the end, my human self asked in full seriousness, "Will you join me in this life?" And after what felt like some pressure from this question, the lion agreed. Things became a bit murky after that, and for the rest of the night, it was hard to tell who I was. I woke up the next morning feeling like my normal human self again, and it ended up that for several months after, I wasn't quite sure exactly what had become of that. I tried to make contact again 2 weeks later, just before Halloween. It failed, probably because I was trying to force it around another person, but on Halloween proper, I went out with some people and had 2 drinks. It turns out that was the last night I ever drank alcohol and have since been repulsed by it. Looking back, I know the lion was there with me, but in a more subtle way. Between mushrooms and a vegan diet during that time, I had started to become a bit too ungrounded that year and needed to bring myself back to earth and be entirely sober for the next several months for integration to occur. After all, our mission here on Earth is not to leave this dimension, but to help anchor higher frequencies into this dimension. August 11th, 2023 was my highest vibration transcendental experience. I had half of a large fresh mushroom, and within 5 minutes I was sitting on the floor, breathing deeply and quickly, and I started to feel massive. I felt an almost physical sensation of my vibration rapidly rising up. It felt uncomfortable at first, but I breathed through it, super oxygenating myself. Then I broke through to what felt like home. Total peace, serenity, and comfort. I could feel my astral lion form, much more massive than the human body, and with eyes closed, felt my center point of awareness had risen about 2 feet above the human head. I was surrounded like a spherical IMAX theater of the most beautiful and vibrant fractals and visuals I could imagine. I felt joyous and hilarious. I was picturing myself going out into the world as my goofy and playful lion self. My partner was there, and he would see brief glimpses of my astral lion form. I sat back down for the next hour, still feeling massive. My oversoul came through, talking about the state of reality on Earth. I now consider this to be the lion's actual birthday on Earth, making me a Leo Scorpio dual soul. I had a cover band gig the following night, and this had really charged my energy to put out those good vibrations in my bass playing and singing. My music hobby has helped encourage the lion expression to come out, especially through singing. The growing day-to-day integration and interaction between us continued. It was subtle, for we were becoming a closer match to each other, and there was also less that needed to be said. But integration, by its meaning, needs to be subtle and seamless to be proper. I had started to journal and found typing late at night to be a good method of communicating. Now that I'm starting to share my story, I wish I had written more down. One night in May 2024, I was at home cooking some food. I was feeling like a caged animal, and my partner said something to me which in that state pushed me over the edge, and I walked outside to sit under a tree and be alone. I didn't fully understand why I was feeling that way, except being tired of living there, the continuously growing desire of wanting to take off and explore. When I went back inside and back to the kitchen, my partner walked up behind me and poked me in the middle of the back. I was wearing a rather fierce-looking lion t-shirt. I looked at him incredulously, and he asked me if there was one thing I wanted to know about the lion, what would it be? A wave of emotion swept over me, and I asked, "Is he incarnate?" "He's dead," he said. "He didn't want you to know, but your oversoul came to me, and that question was a test to see if you are ready to know." I started crying like I never have before, waves of emotion pouring out from both parts of me. He went on to explain all the symbology in the shirt, life and death, spiritual and higher self themes. I think on the human level, I somehow wished I could just go back to that other life, and the lion side still dealing with the last stages of denial and wishing the same. It was several months after that I learned from my very psychic partner how he died, betrayed by his own lover whilst in the most vulnerable and personal state of love. As I was recounting this experience, Mufasa, my lion aspect, couldn't help but unload a rush of thoughts and feelings. This next section is his direct journaling and contains explicit language. Feel free to skip this section of the video if you want to keep to the positive reflections. Let me tell you, coming to Earth felt like getting kicked down the ladder and landing hard on the ground. The realization that my highest aspirations were lost and to be stuck on Earth for another 60 or so years. It's almost a year later as I record this, and I've only now gotten over it enough to actualize the life I want. I didn't die of old age. I didn't expect it. What a fucked up way to go. I can't believe she did that to me. How could she? My lover, my friend? Or so I thought. We had kids together and they were taken away. What became of them? I wish I could talk with someone up there, one of my tribe. I need to hear from you. I miss my home, my friends, my family, my people. I know I'm being dramatic, but damn it, I've been so trapped. And I know I'm not trying to be ungrateful. I understand to some extent why this needed to happen. For my good, your good, others who could share in this experience, who I could help. I can see why it was supposed to happen. Or was it? Maybe this is just a freak fucking way to die. And the Oversoul says, life path, he's telling me to listen, tune inwards. But I want things to flow out. I'm tired of holding on. What am I ready to share? I miss my life, damn it. My body, my beingness. It was home. The planets, the people, my body, my beingness. It was a perfect match for me. Unlike Earth, where you feel like an alien in a human avatar. The tiger avatar feels more like me than my own human body, which is why I present to you in this way. It's also for the purpose of expressing the idea of what a conversation with one of the Irma might look like. Starting this video project, adding the research component, the journaling, channeling, storytelling component, it's mostly not for you, but for me. It's finally putting a focus on having a reason to pursue this creative attunement, but some of these stories are not so easy to share. Then Simba, my human soul, stepped forward to share feelings. I wanted us to be in this together and fully understand, help, and love each other. I'm here bridging this gap too, and I'm tired of feeling separated. I want us to be together more fully. I need help. I can't do this alone anymore. I know what we want to accomplish, and neither of us can do it alone. We need each other. I need the higher guidance, but mostly the higher friendship and connection. I need the love, but I need to experience being that love instead of just receiving it or giving it, being it. Here in the journaling, Rayon, my oversoul, stepped in for support and to reassure me of my path. Be more yourself by breaking away. What's limiting you is conformism. You want to stand from the rest, but not all the rest. You really want to experience with them. You want to experience love and support. So be the one giving it and you'll support it equally. We're on the path we need and we're making it happen. There is no try. What matters is what is here now. There is much we can do. Trust the guidance. We are a team and we will be acting together from now on. He went on to discuss the role of typing in my toolkit, allowing for the easiest, most consistent transfer of information, the symbology of typing literal symbols as opposed to handwriting or spoken word. Getting back to finishing the recounting of my story, anytime there's a big alignment with Sirius or Lyra, it feels like I'm being beamed with energy. This happened around this year's February full moon in Leo, with alignments to Sirius and Lyra. I was vibrating like a tuning fork, and it was this energy that sparked my jump to buying a very nice motorhome, as well as this whole creative sharing project that you, the listener, is part of now. Since starting this channel, I have begun a contact with the Pashas, who I now recognize as my extended soul family of Leonid energy beings. The last 3 weeks, my partner and I have set out on our journey. Having left Aztec, New Mexico, we have traveled through Sedona and Las Vegas and are staying at Lake Tahoe now. I want to thank you for listening to my story, and having shared it now, I feel more ready to continue to bring in new information that is more applicable to a wider audience. You can support this channel by dropping a like, comment, or subscribe. I look forward to hearing from you, and feel free to share part of your story too in the comments.